Hello, and welcome to Volume 2 of Spooktober Storytime. On tonight's chapter, we will be listening to a reading of The Midnight Game in Florida, narrated by King. Let us open the book to Chapter 1.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, one of my friends sent me a very intriguing URL, suggesting we should try this sometime. Of course, he was referring to the game that everyone on r/nosleep had heard of before, the Midnight Game. The gist of it is that you write your name on a piece of paper, put your blood on it, light a big candle, and then put them both in front of your wooden door. As the time nears midnight, you start to knock on your own front door 22 times. The 22nd knock has to be the stroke of midnight, and then you blow out the candle and relight it. Doing this is said to invite the Midnight Man into your home, where you must walk around in complete darkness with the candle as your only source of light. If the candle goes out, it means he's near, and you have to relight your candle within 10 seconds, or make a circle around yourself with salt and stay inside of it. Other things that could happen are, the room could go cold, you can hear whispers, or even see a humanoid figure as you're walking around. This continues until 3:33 a.m., whereupon if you've done everything correctly, you have won the game. If you lose, there are threats of insanity or even death. A couple of other things to mention. I have seen renditions of this where it is said that the Midnight Man will make you hallucinate your fears. From the experience I had from 12 to 3:30 a.m., I either think that part was not super integral to my experience, or I just didn't screw up bad enough to hallucinate. Also, it is taken as direct provocation to try to chide the Midnight Man. I'll explain my colossal screw-up a bit further down. I, like most generic Redditors, don't have any belief in the supernatural, and I like to test little things like this as a way of amusing myself. And, until this weekend, I've had zero respect for anything of this sort. I come into this sub to read creepypasta, but I'd never had a genuine paranormal experience to the best of my knowledge. Just this past Friday, I remembered suddenly when my friend told me about the Midnight Game. Since I wouldn't have an opportune time to do this otherwise, as I live with my mother, and she's been spending the night often at my grandparents' house to help care for them, I call Ryan up and ask if he's still in, which he replies, "Yes, I've been waiting for this call." Splendid. So, on the way over, Ryan picks up 2 giant salt shakers at around 10 o'clock. Alright, Ryan is basically the same as me, smart about things like this, but still a little apprehensive of the dark, and, as he admitted when he told me about it, he would never do this on his own, but he would definitely do it if someone else was with him. At 11:55, Ryan and I are getting our materials ready so we can write, draw blood, and knock all in the allotted time span. Ryan suggests that we throw the fuse, since turning on lights means losing the game, but I don't really feel comfortable with fumbling around with all that. We just need to be disciplined about not turning anything with power on, and we'll be good. From 11:59 to 12 a.m., we execute our name cards very well, and I end up doing the honor of the knocking. Ryan helps me synchronize the knocks, and I get it right on the dot. We blow out our candles and re-enter, lighting them again. As soon as we have both things lit, Ryan lets out an "ooh," and we both laugh and relax a little. You're supposed to move around, or the Midnight Man is able to find you or something, so we creep slowly, tracing the wall and staying in the more open rooms. We start to go towards my bedroom, but Ryan says he feels like it would be too cramped. Both of our candles are doing just fine, and as Florida nights are this time of year, the house is as hot as expected. As we walk around, we talk and joke a little bit, even though we were definitely both nervous to some degree. At 12:50, Ryan asks me if we're allowed to eat during the game. I actually hadn't a clue and told him to go for it, if he can avoid opening the fridge, since I'm sure the light would disqualify us from the game. I actually don't know what he ate, because I forgot to ask and was distracted by what he said when he came back into the living room. With a full mouth, he says, "When is the Nightman supposed to arrive?" And I really wish he hadn't said that, because I reply with, Nightman, that's... And in a moment I regret more than anything. I began to sing, Dayman, champion of the Nightman. Ryan chimes in. In an instant, both of us are singing The Nightman Cometh from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Doing that was the single most stupidest thing I did, because that night was not the same from that point on. It was 12:58 a.m. The only reason I remember the exact time is that I was looking at my watch by candlelight when it just went out. I didn't think I could panic like such a little girl, and I quickly relighted in no more than 5 seconds. That was close, I said, and Ryan looks at me silently. He makes a weird face, and I ask him what's wrong. What did you say? He asks me, and I repeat myself. I said, that was close. He waves his hand and says, No, I heard that. What did you start to say right after that? Apparently he had heard me whispering words immediately following what I'd said. We move over towards the bathroom in the hallway pretty quickly. About 20 minutes later, we'd been walking around slowly, but with a bit more purpose than before. No more joking around. Not much talking between us except for necessary communication. We both feel a little more humbled than when we had started. We both start to go from my bedroom and towards my mom's room, and that's when I look to the right and into the hallway bathroom. There's just a figure, just standing in the tub, partially obscured by the drawn curtain. Our candles remain intact, so I grab Ryan's shirt firmly and speed walk towards the kitchen. Ryan didn't even ask me what was going on. Once we got to the far end of the kitchen, I asked him if he saw it too. He did. At this point, Ryan asks me if there was anything in the rules that let you opt out of the game. He really didn't want to continue, but he was too scared to turn on the lights and find out what happened from there. So he continued with me. I don't know what I'd done if he had left. Now, we're staying in the kitchen and garage area, going back and forth between them, and I'm basically holding my breath whenever we go through a threshold, since I just expect to see him there. Things seem to calm down a bit, until around this time. I realize something horrible. Ryan, I ask, where's the salt you brought? I didn't ask him because I didn't know, but because I didn't want to have to say it. He answered just as I thought he would. Your bedroom. We talk it over for a minute, and basically conclude that we absolutely need the salt if things go wrong. We start towards my room. Even though the kitchen and the bedroom are barely more than a 10-second sprint from one another, we don't dare do that. Any quick motion is basically just begging for our candle to go out, and I can't help but feel like running will provoke him. We inch our way towards the hall, and finally we have the same view of the bathroom that we had before. I make myself look, because I can't not. If he's still there, I want to know. And nothing. I just see a dark bathroom, and nothing but that. I think that was the most relieved I felt all game, which is stupid, because, as other players have mentioned, it seems like optimism is enough to draw him to you. I walk through the hallway and into my bedroom, and I can see the giant cylinders of salt sitting right in front of my computer monitor. As soon as I grab one of them, the room goes cold. Of all the rooms in my house that never gets cold, it's my bedroom. My bedroom is the hottest in the house due to bad insulation, and yet I suddenly have the urge all over my body to shiver. I turn around immediately with a salt shaker in my hand and another under my arm, and two things immediately catch my eye. A, I don't see Ryan, who had been behind me up until the hallway to the bedroom. I do, however, see the glow of his candle coming from around the corner. I take a moment to wonder why he didn't come in to help me, since I only have one free hand due to the other grasping a candle, and I get my answer. B, the subtlest, most disturbing bob of a head to my left, right over my bed. I swear to you all, there was a figure just sitting in the middle of my bed, and his head had just moved. Between the cold, the lack of Ryan near me, and now this man who is silently perched on my bed, I lost it. I run straight to the door, my candle miraculously staying lit, but I drop the salt shaker that I had in my armpit, and I emerge with only one of them. I expect Ryan to get mad at me, but I round the corner, and his eyes are so wide that I become startled again. Go, 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 he says, right before his candle goes out. I feel awful for this, but I kept booking it back to the kitchen, turning around as soon as candlelight reappeared from behind. I don't know how long it took him, but it definitely didn't exceed 10 seconds. I tried to apologize to him, and he tells me that, in all honesty, he'd have done the same. From that point on, we decided to basically avoid the eastern part of the house, since both times seeing him involved either my bathroom or my bedroom, and the living room was where my candle had gone out the first time. We also discussed the salt shaker situation, coming to the mutual decision that, if one of our candles fails, that the person will circle themselves and give the shaker to the other person to continue on. At this point, that happening is my biggest fear. For Ryan's candle to go out, him have to plant himself in the house, and me have to go traversing on my own for the rest of it. Even though we had a 40-minute period of absolutely nothing, there wasn't a single ounce of relief to come with each passing minute. Relief felt like weakness to me, and weakness felt like something that the Midnight Man would see. We decided to go into a room that extends a long way across the house. While this is a good thing, there are just too many chances to see him lurking. I felt like staying in the kitchen and garage and dining area was going to do us in, so we went in there. We have a tiny bit of light coming through the terraced windows from streetlights on the avenue next to ours, but it is barely a glow. This room is still very much dark, and we do the only thing we can think of, pace up and down it slowly, hoping that the last hour or so will go well. At 2:45 a.m., Ryan and I sat on a futon at the end of the room to rest for just a few minutes, since we'd basically been on our feet since midnight. Like an idiot, I let myself get hopeful at what time it was, how we would be done with this nonsense in a really short period, and how we survived the... He's right there. I look up and see the blinds parted just a smidgen, and before I even look up and see the darkened figure, I get off the bed and dart straight ahead. I run to about halfway through the room, and, in the most terrifying second of my whole life, something comes crashing down on me. My overactive imagination can only assume one thing. The Midnight Man materialized through the glass slider and pounced on me. But after a second or two, I realize what's on me is flat and scratchy. Ryan shouts out from behind. At first I assume it's because he saw me get hit by the chunk of ceiling that had just swiped the side of my head, but no, his candle had gone out again. Still holding mine, I turn to see him booking it towards me. "Light your candle," I yell, but he doesn't respond to that. I notice now that he isn't even holding his candle anymore, but the salt shaker, he does something that I had never even thought of. He starts to pour a salt circle around both of us, an amorphous boundary that seems to connect just fine, and it's absolutely huge. Even though I have a lit candle, I'm inside of it with him, and his face looks absolutely horrified. A brief terror comes over me. Now I have to go play by myself for the rest of the night, which is followed immediately by a sudden realization of, no I don't, and I blow out my candle. Oh Christ. I almost don't even want to talk about this part. The first thing my mind conceives upon blowing out the candle is that I made a really, really stupid decision. This is followed immediately by reminding myself that I'm already in the salt circle, and Ryan even says to me, Good, I'm really glad you did that." The two of us are just sitting on this disgusting floor, the salt border honestly looking more like an acorn at this point. But there aren't any gaps. We sit, and there is nothing but complete silence. My pupils are still getting cozy with the idea of dilating after all that candle time, but I swear I'm seeing movement over on the futon where we had been. I don't ask Ryan to turn and look with me, I just want it to end. Throughout the nearly 3/4 hour we spent in that cramped salt acorn, we both got chills at completely separate times. I heard a whisper, "No, no, no, no," like a mantra for about 30 seconds, and when I look at Ryan to comfort him, I'm horrified to see that he isn't the one saying it. By the time the watch hit 3:33 a.m., we hadn't moved. We didn't even leave the thing until 3:40. Both slowly and silently, we got up and turned every light on in the house. The afterword of this whole experience? I went to the bathroom to see what kind of a mark that ceiling piece had left. It was clearly already part of a deteriorating room. The rest of the ceiling had fallen last summer, but there was no activity back there since. The fact that another large chunk would just fall as we were playing the midnight game, right after seeing the Midnight Man, and right as I'm underneath it, is staggeringly horrible. It has been a few days, so it isn't nearly as bad as it was, but this is the small gash that I was left with. I've had horrible nightmares the past 2 nights. Horrible. People I know in places from my childhood. They'll be talking to me normally and calmly, and then suddenly their eyes are pupilless and their tongue is wagging. Creepy. None of my dreams have involved the Midnight Man, surprisingly enough, but I can't help feel like I lost. We shouldn't have shared the same salt circle, because that was never verified as workable in the rules. I shouldn't have blown out my candle, even if I was in the circle. The circle was, as I said, barely even a circle. How have players managed to do a circle in the dark anyways? I don't know if I'm being tormented, or if I'm just paranoid. Ryan and I spoke the next day, and he had had a nightmare as well. But his had to do with drowning, and being resurrected, and drowning, over and over again. I hadn't spoken to him yet today, so I don't know if he had another bad dream tonight.
I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. Join me next week as we listen to a reading of The Russian Sleep Experiment, narrated by Lovely Chaos. This has been Spooktober Storytime, Volume 2, Chapter 1.